Welcome to this deep dive. Today, we're unpacking a psychological mystery that starts off feeling like your average haunted house story, but slowly morphs into something completely different. Picture this. You just moved into a new apartment in a big city. You're settling into flat 403, taking care of your grandparents, and just waiting for your husband to get back from a business trip. But then, the vibe totally shifts. The elevator randomly stops, trapping you in the dark. Strangers seem to be lurking in the shadows. There's this eerie sense of dread hanging in the air. Well, that's exactly the life of our main character, Aina. Today, we're going to dig deep into this mystery and figure out exactly how this story completely tricks us before delivering a massive, shocking twist. Let's get right into it.
Someone is following us. This chilling quote from Aina sets the mood perfectly, doesn't it? Right from the jump, the atmosphere in and around her new building is just suffocating. Aina is living in this constant, gripping state of paranoia. She tells her new neighbor, Yamini, that she can literally feel a presence. At one point, she's walking back with groceries and drops them in sheer panic because she is absolutely convinced someone is trailing her. And we're not just talking about hearing a weird noise or seeing a shadow. As Aina describes it, it's that deep, bone-chilling feeling of someone being right there with you, even when nobody is around. This escalating fear totally convinces us, the viewers, that we're watching a standard, terrifying ghost story. The tension feels so incredibly real, and it perfectly sets us up for the ultimate deception.
Okay, let's dive into this next section, the mystery of the past deaths, or as we'll soon discover, the ultimate red herring plot.
So, let's get into the wildest part of this story. While Aina is freaking out over her ghostly stalker, her neighbors, Harsh, Yamini, and Raghav, get tangled up in this massive, interconnected mystery right there in the housing society. These neighbors uncover a pattern of bizarre, terrifying deaths. First up is Vicky. He's crushed underneath his own car, a car that was literally locked from the inside. Like, how is that even physically possible? Then there's Vishaka, another resident. Right after warning Aina about a dark shadow, she's brutally attacked and killed. Next is Paru. She suspected Vicky's wandering spirit was behind Vishaka's death, and well, she ends up dead too. Finally, Vishal, whose body is discovered by Harsh during his investigation. The narrative brilliantly paints a picture of a revenge plot. It tricks us into thinking some evil spirit is picking off this specific friend group one by one.
The logic behind the neighbor's investigation seems absolutely flawless, right? It's the perfect supernatural thriller setup. They figure that since Vicky died in literally impossible circumstances, he must have been murdered, and now his ghost, or his killer's ghost, is hunting down his friend group, Vishaka, Paru, Vishal, Mauli, and Romil. But wait, how does Aina fit into all of this? Well, the neighbors conclude the ghost is haunting Aina's flat simply because Vishaka talked to her right before she died. In ghost story logic, that checks out perfectly. This gives the neighbors a clear mission: find the remaining friends, Romil and Mauli, before the ghost does. It is an absolutely brilliant red herring that completely distracts us and pulls us away from the real truth hiding behind the curtain.
Moving on to the search for the missing husband, and where the cracks in the illusion finally start to show.
But while the neighbors are playing ghost hunters, the actual psychological thriller is brewing right around Aina. The focus sharply pivots from the dead friends to Aina's own agonizing personal struggle. The fear isn't just about shadows anymore. It becomes incredibly urgent and grounded in reality. Her husband, Mohit, who is supposed to be on a business trip in Darjeeling, is totally unreachable. So where exactly is Mohit? Aina's calls keep going straight to voicemail. That unease quickly spirals into sheer panic. The pacing really speeds up here. We're no longer just asking, who is this ghost? We're asking, where is her husband? Aina decides she can't just sit around flat 403 waiting anymore. Alongside her neighbor Yamini, she marches straight to Mohit's office to demand some answers.
And this is where the grand illusion absolutely shatters. When Aina meets Mohit's boss, Raj, she mentions that Mohit is supposed to be coming back from his official Darjeeling trip. The boss is just totally confused. And then he drops a bombshell. The Darjeeling trip was canceled. In fact, Mohit took a whole week off because his wife was moving to Mumbai, and he wanted her to settle comfortably into their new home. With that one single sentence, Aina's entire alibi for her husband's whereabouts vanishes into thin air. He wasn't in a meeting. He wasn't out of town. He was supposed to be right there with her. This revelation completely flips the entire narrative on its head.
Now, what's really interesting about this next part is the terrifying, shocking truth. Let's unpack the climax.
Just as the panic hits its absolute peak, the last surviving member of that doomed friend group shows up at Aina's building. His name is Romil, and he's not looking for a place to hide from a ghost. He's there to apologize. Rommel breaks down in tears and confesses a devastating truth. The whole ghost revenge story? It was a sham. Yes, his friends were dying, but not because of a phantom. They were dying because of a very real, horrific crime they committed. Rommel confesses that he and his friends were driving the car that caused a fatal accident. They hit a pedestrian on the road. That man was Mohit. He was killed on the spot. The friend group fled the scene, and ever since, that guilt, or maybe some vengeful force, has been consuming them. Rommel connects the story of his dead friends directly to Ina's missing husband. But Ina, completely terrified and frantic, flat out refuses to believe it. She insists she's alive, she's standing right there, and there is no way Mohit could be dead.
And here comes the biggest, most heartbreaking reveal of all. The number 15. Amidst Ina's denial, her grandparents, the very people she was supposedly taking care of in this apartment, step forward and deal the final crushing blow to her illusion. They gently remind her of the actual date she arrived in Mumbai. It wasn't just a few days ago. It was the 15th of the month. Ina's entire current timeline, everything she thinks she's experienced in Flat 403, is completely false.
Let's walk through the true chronological sequence of events, as explained tearfully by her grandparents. Step 1. Ayana arrived at the Mumbai airport on the 15th, where Mohit came to pick her up. Step 2. On the way to their new apartment, their taxi broke down, forcing them to carry their luggage and walk the rest of the way. Step 3. While walking on that dark road, they were struck by a speeding car, the very car driven by Rommel and his friends. And Step 4. The tragic end. They didn't make it. Both Mohit and Ayana were killed instantly in that crash. Because the death was so sudden and traumatic, their souls were trapped on Earth. This truth completely recontextualizes the entire foundation of the story we've been following.
And this brilliantly illustrates just how terrifying the gap between the mind and reality can be. In her head, Ina had constructed an entire fictional universe. She believed Mohit was on a business trip, that they safely took a taxi home for 120 rupees, and that she was a living, breathing woman in danger from an unknown shadow. But the reality was incredibly dark. Mohit died in that crash. Ina died right along with him. The broken elevator, the constant feeling of a presence, the inability to contact her husband, it wasn't because a ghost was haunting her. It was because she was the ghost.
We really need to slow down for a second and just appreciate the sheer tragedy of this. This isn't just a story about a haunted building. It's a deep dive into the psychology of denial. Ina's spirit went through a trauma so sudden and horrific that her mind simply refused to accept it. Her soul was in such deep denial about her own violent death that she literally manufactured an entire functioning, living reality. She hallucinated neighbors, daily chores, and waited for a husband who was never ever going to walk through that door again. It's a psychological defense mechanism so powerful, it literally crossed the boundary of death.
The story hits its absolute emotional climax when the grandmother's spirit explains the reality to Ina. She says, "Your soul couldn't accept death even after dying." It was actually Mohit's spirit who had accepted his fate, desperately trying to reach her, trying to break the illusion and tell her the truth. But Ina's denial was so deep that Mohit had to bring in her grandparents just to help her finally see reality. It's a truly heartbreaking moment when Ina is finally asked to let go of her illusion, accept her passing, and cross over from this world.
So at the end of it all, we're left reflecting on this massive question. Can the human mind ever truly accept the suddenness of death? Or are we all doomed to build our own comforting illusions just to avoid confronting a harsh reality? This story uses the framework of a horror mystery to expose the deepest vulnerabilities of the human psyche. It teaches us to fear the ghosts outside, only to reveal that the most powerful, stubborn force of all is the mind itself, a mind that can flat out refuse to accept even death. Thank you so much for joining me in this deep dive. Keep questioning everything you see, and I'll catch you next time.